All right. Good morning and welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Inside Edge podcast, episode 26. Today I am with Coach Clark, as usual, and we got some playoff hockey updates. Since we last spoke, the first round has concluded, and we actually got to meet face to face and talk about it for a little bit off air. As I said, we had the first round conclude. We had one game seven come out of the first round. We had many game sixes with a potential game seven. Uh, Montreal defeated Tampa in game seven on 9 shots. One of the crazier game sevens I've seen in my life. The least
Yeah,
amount of game shots in a game seven winning effort ever. So
yeah,
that was crazy. Carolina
good.
swept Ottawa easily. Vegas handled Utah in 6 games. Utah had a chance to win 2 of those with one shot at the end and couldn't get it done. Pittsburgh made it a series, but Philly ended up completing it 4-2. Anaheim defeated Edmonton with McDavid slowly hampered at the end of the series. Minnesota defeated Dallas handily. I'd say they finally took that step forward. Their city's been waiting to watch them break out of the first round for about a decade again. Another team, Colorado, took their series against LA handily, 4-0,
Yeah,
the second sweep of the first round. And then last but very not least, the Buffalo Sabres defeated my Boston Bruins 4-2, as handily as I've felt my team get handled in the last
yeah,
few years. It was a
yeah,
sad way to watch them go out. They got dusted at home. They were 0-3 in the Garden. Just a despicable. There's lack of home ice advantage, I would say.
sorry,
And
buddy.
I don't know
Sorry.
if it's okay.
Yeah,
As a Bruins fan, I will say this: we had no expectations for this team this year. It was a wild card team at best, which is what we ended up. All thanks to Jeremy Swayman, who, if you watched any of the games, was by far and away our MVP best
yeah,
player. The only reason
yeah,
it got to 6 games. Uh, but yeah, some changes need to be made. We need to get stronger up the middle. We need some solid bottom four D pairing guys. Yeah, so things got to change, but we are
yeah,
one of those organizations that builds from the net out, and we have that guy right now. So I would love to not waste this time frame and where he is as good
yeah.
as he could possibly be, like this series.
Couple of observations. I was in Boston watching a game a year ago, a little more than a year ago, and I'm watching the game go on, and I'm surrounded by I'm in a suite upstairs, and I'm surrounded by Bruins fans, obviously. So I have to keep my mouth shut, and I don't like or dislike Boston. I grew up with them, but I don't care. But I'm observing how like they're not a very good team. Like they have no elite talent. So having said that, they're way better this year than they were a year ago, right? And they have a different coach. I think Marco Sturm's done a really good job. Swayman had a great year, especially the second half of the season. I think he played well in the playoffs. And, he's gone through some, you know, elements of his game, early in the year were kind of shaky, and he just basically shrugged him off, and he just got better and better. So I think they're better than they were a year ago, bottom line. Second observation is I think in the league itself, you're seeing a changing of the guard. You really are. With teams like Dallas and Tampa getting knocked out in the first round, Edmonton as well. And, teams like Buffalo, Montreal, Anaheim, Philly to a point. They're not as young as those first three teams I mentioned, but you're seeing some of these teams come in and just they're fun to watch. They feel great for their fan base, and it's really exciting. Exciting times for all of those franchises. And thirdly, um, you hear everyone's an expert, right? But you hear the playoff format, pro, con, whatever. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the playoff format. It has provided us some great matchups in the first round, some exciting hockey, and there's nothing wrong with the playoff format whatsoever. So for those who are saying it needs to be changed, no, stuff it. There's nothing wrong with it. And just, yeah, nothing wrong whatsoever. It's provided us great hockey, and it's going to get better and better. This round, third round, and the finals, it's going to be really, really good. And what we're looking at right now, out west, we're looking at, Colorado, Vegas. conference final, and almost all but assured, right? And that is going to be like, who do you pick to win, or better yet, who do you pick to lose in that one? So anyway, those are some general observations. But I've had a blast watching the playoffs. Really, my favorite two teams to watch: Montreal, Buffalo, and it's almost too bad they're going to face each other before the conference finals. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, right?
I think, yeah, again, talking about the playoff format a little bit, I love some of these matchups we've had so far, and that's the big one this round is Buffalo, Montreal. Uh,
Yeah.
you remember the old Adams division, right, coach?
Yep.
Okay, so a cool stat I heard: if Buffalo meets Colorado in the Stanley Cup final, Buffalo will have had to defeat most of the old Adams division to get there. The Boston
Wow.
Bruins, the
Wow.
Montreal Canadiens, and if they play Carolina in the next round, that's the Hartford Whalers.
Yeah.
And if they play Colorado in the Stanley Cup final, it's the Quebec Nordiques, right?
Great.
So
Who dug that up? That's a great
I know, right? That's a
piece of info.
that's what I
That's
mean, where
fantastic.
I mean, you can complain all you want. There's been some unbelievable matchups. There was only 2 sweeps in the first round, and those 2 guys
Yeah.
are I mean, it was the crazier, heavier
Yeah.
tilted matchups of the first
Yeah.
round, so, I mean, we almost got
Yeah.
5 game 7s. So
Yeah. No, I that's a great great tidbit of information, and but yeah, it's been fun, and that's the bottom line is, it's entertainment, and we are entertained. I at least I have been, and I really don't have a favorite team. I typically, follow teams that have players that I know or have coached or whatever, but I don't really have a favorite team. I just kind of sit back and watch, and this has been great, and great series. Watching Montreal last night, handily, beat Buffalo in Buffalo, and really good job. And then now they go back home. They get a split on the road. They go back home, and they're always tough. But I'm waiting for the I'm waiting for the Montreal fans to help out and sing the U.S. national anthem. You think that'll happen in Montreal?
I don't think so. I doubt it.
Probably not. No, I'd love to see
I
it
think
though.
Buffalo might stop if they start to lose this series towards the end.
Yeah,
Game 7, there might
yeah,
not be a Canadian national anthem if they have one.
yeah, yeah. But it's been
Um,
fun. It's fun to watch.
Speaking of one of these second round series, coach, we'll get the one out of the way that seems the most over. Carolina's up 3-0 on Philadelphia. I saw one of your guys that's still out there, Nikolai Ehlers. I happened to point him out to Daniela, and I believe we had a guest over the other night as one of Coach's favorite players because he is just
Yep.
a dog, man. I mean, he doesn't
Yeah.
take a shift off. He's a fucking water bug out there. He's everywhere.
Yeah.
He knows exactly where he's
Yeah.
supposed to be. Positions himself great.
And I've been
But
watching
yeah,
him, for a decade, right? And and especially his days in Winnipeg, because I always follow that team. And I remember telling Helly, he said, this guy, 27, is my favorite player on the team. He goes, really? I said, yeah. I said he's a threat every time he steps on the ice because of his speed. He's got a great he's got a cannon for a shot. And his enthusiasm for the game is at such a high level. Like every goal he scores, it seems like it's his first NHL goal. And to me, that's really hard to find. And but his life for the game, his heart for the game is unsurpassed. Tremendous blow to Winnipeg when he walked out. But I think honestly, he just wanted to change. Um, you know, Playing in Winnipeg's not, um, the warmest place to play in the National Hockey League, right? So he goes from there to Carolina, and good for him. But what a great pickup for Carolina, and now he's starting to produce in the playoffs. And watch out, And another
yeah,
aspect with Carolina is the play of Freddie Anderson, and veteran goalie. What is he? 36 years old, right? So
36.
he's
Yeah.
he's up there, and Freddie's always been solid, but he's never ever had. I don't think he's ever had a season where he's been out with an injury. Like every year he's played, he's always gotten hurt. But when he's played, like especially this year in the playoffs, he's been absolutely dynamite. And, I think if he can stay healthy, which I believe he will, there's a big difference between, the marathon of a regular season and, you got to win 16 games, from start to finish in the playoffs to win a cup. Big difference, obviously, but if he stays healthy, which I really believe he will, and I hope he does because he's a really good guy, they're going to be really hard to beat. So whoever they face, in the conference finals, whether it's Buffalo, or Montreal, it's going to be a great series. Uh, but uh, but I mean Carolina's been a lot of fun to watch. Nick Ehlers had a lot to do with it. Freddie's had a lot to do with it, and they're both Danish. They're both from the country of Denmark, which I have his red jersey behind me. That's one of my first European team that I coached was in Aalborg, Denmark, which was actually the birthplace of Nick Ehlers. And
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Full
that's his
circle.
hometown. That's his hometown. And Freddie Anderson was born about a half hour north of Aalborg, Denmark, in a port city called Frederikshavn.
Something in the water up there.
Yeah, it's something, I don't know, and, but anyway, really fun to watch those guys, and, it's been exciting. It's gonna get better as we creep further into the playoffs.
Freddie Anderson's always struck me as one of those guys. He's not the goalie that he's not gonna carry you to a cup on his own, but if you play for a Rod Brind'Amour style coach team
Yeah,
where you're responsible in your own end and you take puck possession very seriously and you smother other teams to death like that, I think he's the perfect goalie because he doesn't give up many, if any, stupid goals. He stops
yep,
everything he should for the most part, which is all
yeah,
you need when you're not looking for a Vezina goalie in net and you're just looking for a
yeah,
solid guy like that.
yeah, that's a great analogy because, Rod Brind'Amour, um, he's been there a long time, and he's had nothing but success there. Playoff success, no, not yet, but he's done really, really well. But you're right, Freddie's a perfect goalie for a system like that, and he has, yeah, he's not called upon to make crazy saves. Every once in a while, he is called upon it, and so far in the playoffs, he has made some. He's made some stupid saves, and which are kind of few and far between because they don't give up a lot. But every once in a while, I mean, especially when you're facing a power play, you're going to see situations like that. And Freddie's answer to the bell.
Yeah, it's playoffs, so everyone's gonna be expected to step up to that next level. Uh, so that was Carolina. I really quickly gotta mention, Coach, I didn't mention this off the hop. We picked all the series originally. I was 4 for 8 with the first round. You were 7 for 8. Only miss was Edmonton. So I gotta give you props there too, by the way. That was impressive.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. Big noggin. Uh we had another series. I'd say we'll cover the two more lopsided series first. Colorado up 2-0 on Minnesota. I'm a little more surprised by this one. I guess I shouldn't be.
yeah,
Colorado is just such a powerhouse. We've talked about Wedgwood and the depth on Colorado at multitude. Minnesota, however, though, I thought might be able to match that depth to a certain point, especially on defense. I thought they had a little slight edge. I think Colorado was a little top heavier on the blue line, but I mean, man, they've just dominated. It's
yeah,
been
yeah.
lopsided as hell. It goes back to
Yeah.
Minnesota, so we'll see,
I
but
thought that, Minnesota would be a little bit more impactful, so far. I mean, the series isn't over yet, but it doesn't look very promising for Minnesota, but how about that 9-6 game, you know?
yeah,
And I believe Gustafsson gave up 8 goals in that game, right? I mean, he
I
gave
don't
up all
think
the
they took either of I looked late in the 3rd period, both starting goalies were still in, which shocked
state.
me.
Yeah, yeah, which
Yeah,
shocked me too, but, if
that's
you're
a
Minnesota.
Vasilevsky move.
Yeah, well, if you're Minnesota, what are you gonna do? You gotta put, Luukkonen back? No, I'm sorry, wrong team. Their other goalie, his name escapes me. Sorry, Minnesota.
Gustafson?
Gustafsson. You gotta
Yeah.
swap out goalies, but, when a coach leaves them in, typically it's because, the team has just played poorly in front of him. The goaltender has done nothing wrong. He's in a tough spot. And power play goals included sometimes, and tips, deflections. But boy, 9-6, that's an anomaly.
I
And I
mean,
do believe the
14
next game,
goals in 2 games for
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's
And I think the
that's a
next game
tough
after that was
touchdown a game.
pretty, yeah, was pretty low scoring. So, that was an anomaly, that 15 goal game. But when Colorado gets it going, they're really hard to stop. And I think Wedgwood is, he's he's won me over. I saw him play live a year ago in Winnipeg, and he was really good. And like really good. He's a good sized guy, and but he moves well, he skates well. He's big, he uses his size, and he's very economical. So, um, but again, he gave up 6 the other night, and that happens. So, but they're a really dangerous team, and Minnesota, up and coming team. I mean, they've been knocking on the door for a little bit here, but they had a great year, I thought. But tough opponent. Anyone, you got to get through Colorado, so at some point you're going to play 'em. But,
Yeah.
it look this is gonna be an easy one for Colorado.
If this is, if Minnesota were gonna have a cup run, this would be their hardest series. I mean, that's not a crazy thing to say, but
Yep,
14
yep,
goals in 2 games in Colorado for the Avalanche is insane. So Minnesota will look to go back home and change the
yep.
fortunes on their home ice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Another series that got a little lopsided last night was the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Anaheim Ducks. Vegas took a 2-1 stranglehold on the series in Anaheim. Mitch Marner with the hat trick. He now leads the playoffs with 13 points, 6 goals, 7 assists. I mean, I don't know if you saw the hat trick last night and how much you've watched Marner in the past, but as a Bruins fan, I've never seen that guy not gripping the stick tight in the playoffs.
Yep,
So last night was
yep.
scary if I'm an Anaheim Ducks fan because the third goal in particular, where he kind of just like brushed it into the net, like it looked like he was playing street hockey in middle school gym.
Yeah.
Like he had not a care in the world, and he looked smooth as silk.
Well, all those years he's gripping his stick, where is he playing? He's playing in Toronto, which is, a
Yeah,
prerequisite for playing in Toronto. You gotta be able to it's a tough place to play. Now he's kind of in a free and clear environment, and he's got John Tortorella coaching him, which I think is gonna turn out to be, if they win the cup, it's gonna be really because they brought in this coach. I really believe that. I'm a huge Tortorella
yeah.
fan just because he's a straight shooter, and, players
We
know.
are a pro torts podcast here on Inside Edge. I think we've
Yeah.
made that. We've
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
established that by now.
Absolutely, and, but he's been consistent his whole coaching career. um, whether he's on the East Coast or wherever he is, he's been very consistent in how he approaches the game and how he treats players and what are his expectations of players are. And it's all about accountability. He doesn't screw around. And players deep down, they know that. They know they need it, and they answer it. But I think a coach like that, everyone has a shelf life, right? Whether you're Jim Montgomery or some other type of coach who's kind of hard on players, holds them accountable. They all have shelf lives, and which is kind of unfair, but I kind of get it. But Torts will have his shelf life in Vegas. So boy, they get a really good chance of going, obviously the finals, but winning the whole thing. But again, you're looking at a Colorado Vegas conference final more than likely, and that's gonna be
Colorado, Carolina. Oh, your conference final.
yeah,
It's
conference
I'm
final. Yeah,
sorry, coach. Real quick, it's one of those things my buddy said this morning. Vegas is a great non-Carolina, non-Colorado pick because those are so lopsided. It's a very easy
yeah,
pick Carolina
yeah.
or Colorado right now. But Vegas is just as good as either of those teams. And they look bad. They don't look it because they're a lower seed and they're playing Anaheim, but they are fucking fast and they are dangerous and they are big.
And one guy who's gaining speed, so to speak, is Carter Hart. And when they picked him up
Yeah.
very
Yes.
quietly,
Great point.
he had that legal, a bunch of guys had legal issues in Canada where I think the whole thing was blown out of proportion to a point, right? But they quietly brought him in, and as soon as they did that, I'm like, that was a great pickup. And it took him a while to kind of get his footing back, but he can play. And now he's got a good team in front of him. He's got a great coaching at his side. So I'm like, be careful. He could steal the show. And so far, again, this projected matchup next round, Wedgwood and Carter Hart, that's going to be dynamite. So I go back to say this: the way the playoff format has worked out, some unbelievable matchups. But Carter Hart has been quietly, I think, an extremely valuable player as they run towards the conference finals here. And I don't know why it's been quiet, but maybe writers don't like writing about him because what he's been through with his legal issues. But I tell you what a great pickup by that franchise earlier this year.
I think that Carter Hart was one of those guys like Spencer Knight where people had a lot of hope for him when he first came up, and then,
Yep.
like you mentioned with the off the ice stuff, I think people were a little skittish to take a chance on him. But I
Yep.
mean, the talent has nothing to do with that off the ice stuff. The dude was ridiculously talented when he was coming up, and that hasn't changed, and you're starting to see
Yeah.
that now.
Yeah, and I also agree that the Blackhawks picking up Spencer Knight was as brilliant as a move as Vegas picking up Carter Hart. I think there's a lot of runway left for Spencer Knight. A lot of runway. He's still a young kid, and uh, and he's been through a lot. And he's mentally, I think he's conquering some things, and hopefully Chicago can, put together or keep getting better and better and better. But they've got a very good young goalie. But these two teams picked up two very very good goalies that no one else kind of wanted to touch, or they were skittish about touching them, and they made a bold move. Both of them did, Vegas and Chicago, and I think it's going to pay off.
It is akin to the torch situation that you were just talking about in my mind, coach, where, some of these guys, it might have been wrong place, wrong time, wrong situation, wrong franchise, whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
like torch, when the timing and place clicks, I mean, some of these guys, not only are they indebted to your franchise for taking a flyer on them, but they're
Yeah.
grateful and they want to win for you, which is
Yep.
a type of, it's not a thing you can buy or coach into a guy, right?
Yeah. If you ever want to be humbled in life, I always say play golf or be a goalie, right? And it'll bring you to your knees one way or the other. And I think you're right. I think they've been very humbled. A lot of these goalies, but there's been some there's been some kind of comeback kids this year. Vladar has had a great year with Philly, and I saw him play, a year or two ago, and I'm like, nothing there. I didn't like what I saw. And a lot of it was confidence, I think. But now all of a sudden, boom, he's found it. He's had a fantastic year, and he's given Flyer fans some hope. So the key is consistency. And year after year after year, if you do that, 1 year out of 4 or 5 is not going to cut it. So we'll see how Vladar does going down the road. But this year, he had a great year, and they should be very excited. But they just got to keep him going, and it's all right here. It's all upstairs, and if he believes in what he's doing and doesn't, he kind of puts himself in a cocoon and doesn't worry about anything else, just go play. And yeah, I think he'll be fine. But there's a lot of guys just like that, in his situation that have had really good years. But the key will be consistency. But for now, he's been fun to watch too.
And just before we move on from Vladar, because you were giving Anderson, and I did too, his flowers for how good he's been this season. Although Anderson's numbers are much better, Vladar is the only guy with 2 shutouts in the playoffs other than Freddie Anderson. And I
Yep.
know you had Philly in the first round. Not a lot of people did. I'm sure looking across brackets and a lot of people that I talk to about hockey's opinions of things. Dan Vladar has definitely been a breakout spot. And
Yep.
he's
Yep.
easily number 1, if not 2 reason, other than a couple other young guys on that Philly team, that they're in the second round at all. And regardless of how it's going right now, they owe that in big part to Dan Vladar. So
Yep,
I
yep,
just wanted
and they
to
just gotta build
pop that
around
in there.
him, and build around your goalie. You believe in him. I don't know what he has left for a term in his contract, but hopefully he's got, a few years left. But no, he's been fun to watch, and he's got good size too. He's a big guy, mobile. But I think he's been great for Philly and give them, like I said before, giving them some hope.
They've got him through the end of next year
Yeah,
at 335 cap
yeah.
hit, so not bad at all. for a guy that
No,
good.
cheap labor. That's great. Good for him.
Yep. And then last series before we move on to Coach had some goalie rankings, so we're going to discuss the goalies that are still alive and active and what we think of their performance so far. But the last series and oh yeah, speaking of comeback stories, I think there's two really good ones on this team. Lindy Ruff, former coach of the Sabres,
Yep.
getting a second chance to come back and coach this team with their first playoff berth in what 15, 16 years. And then
100
also
years.
it feels like that. Speaking of goalies, Alex Lyon, who was taken out against Boston after they had the best regular season in history. Bob comes in, reverses that series. The last 5 years of hockey, I feel like, has been shaped by that. Maybe that's just my Bruins bias, but he's having a hell of a run too. So good
Yeah.
comeback story for him, and I think the Buffalo as
Yep.
a whole, the whole city. So
Yeah. 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 I mean, that, again, it's too bad that Buffalo and Montreal have to face each other prior to the conference finals, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. But yeah, I mean, you want to get into the goalie rankings?
yeah, I was just gonna say this is the best series so far in the
Yeah.
second round.
Yep.
We've already
Yep.
mentioned
It
that, but I
is.
have to reiterate it. It's
This will go. This
been
will
the only
go.
games I've watched both of so far, and they're both intense.
Yep.
So,
I think this will go deep. This will go 6 or 7 games, and for Montreal to get a split, and last night they won handily. And
yeah.
Buffalo was so physical, and they took some unfortunate penalties last night and put Montreal on the power play, and Montreal's got some pretty energetic forwards up front who can bury the puck, and that's exactly what they did. Jakob Dobas in goal, solid, 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 and a really good combination. But this is the best series of them all so far, and
This series is gonna come down to mistake management. You saw it last night. Bad
yeah,
penalties, Tage
yep,
Thompson tripping at the blue line,
big one,
and both these teams with their speed and size, they step on your throat the minute you make a mistake. So,
yeah. And
mistake management.
I'm gonna stick with my original pick. I'm gonna pick Montreal, because I think Buffalo has a tendency to take penalties because they're an extremely physical team. Um, yeah, some dumb ones, but just playing physical, they're gonna get called on a few. I just think that Montreal has that magic, a little bit more magic than Buffalo, and their goaltending is just very stable, and that's exactly what you need. And Dobie looks like a 30-year-old veteran in there, and he's barely 24 years old, roughly, right? So,
Yeah.
that's got to be a really, really good one. That's fun to watch.
I agree, coach. That's a series where a lot of people aren't talking about how good Montreal is on that power play. They have the second best unit in the NHL in the regular season. The best unit was a little guy named Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but after
Yeah,
those two on their power play unit, the Montreal Canadiens' number one unit is the best in the NHL. So
yeah,
I think if
yeah,
they make those mistakes, like we said, they'll step on their throat.
yeah, yeah.
You
I
want to go
think
through some
Buffalo
goalie
has a
rankings,
problem.
coach?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with my least favorite,
All right,
and
bottom up.
I'll tell you why. Bottom up, least favorite, um, Gustafson so far, and that's just playoff performances, not regular season.
Do we want?
Yeah.
Are we putting him and Gus or Wallstead in the same category, or are we move? Is there nine
Yeah,
guys?
yeah. I
Because
mean, they've kind of tag teamed a little bit, but so yeah,
okay,
Minnesota's goaltending. All right, they just
gotcha.
haven't been it done, and you can't give up 9 goals in a game, and you can't give up that many goals in a couple of games and expect to have success. So they're at the bottom right now. The second one's going to surprise you. Um, Lion, Buffalo. Don't like the guy,
Does
never have
surprise me.
liked the guy. Um, I just don't think he's the guy to carry that deep into the playoffs. And he's always been a little bit of a baggage type guy. He's played on several teams in his career, I believe, and put it nicely. I just don't believe in him. And he can make brilliant saves here and there, but in general, not a fan. I've never really liked his game. Um, but he's an NHL goalie, so obviously he's a great goalie. But of the remaining 8, not a fan, not a fan. So he is he's number so far in the playoffs, number 7.
6.
Number not yep,
You
sorry.
have you have. Yeah, go ahead. You got it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I kind of put the Minnesota goalies in one category. So
Okay,
Lions number 7. Number 6 is Dostal from Anaheim. Again,
that was same for
um,
me.
I I like the guy, and he's young, and I think he's going to be fine. And I remember telling an old friend of mine, Greg Cronin, who was a head coach in Anaheim a few years ago, and they started using Dostal, I think maybe 3 years ago when Dostal was very young in the league. And I remember texting him. I said, "Hey, just stick with him." I mean, they're not going to listen to what I say, but I just wanted to pass along my thoughts because when I was with the Islanders scouting, we had to draft a goalie one year, and Dostal was on our list, and we really liked him, liked his game. And I remember telling Cronin, I said, just let him play, let him play, let him get minutes, let him grow. And the organization has done that. He's not there yet. Once in a while he'll just, the puck will find a way to go right through him. And that kind of bothers me a little bit. But I think he's one of the better young goalies in the league. He's not in the same category yet as Dobis, but he's not that far off either. But he's lucky that he plays for a team that's just going to, there's yours, go play. And then it's up to him, to get his mental game in shape and just make saves when he's got to make them, and just look at what's next, and stop the puck. That's what he's going to do. So Dossel number 6. Num-
Really quick, Coach.
yeah,
Before you move on, I was going to say I think that Dostal and Dobis and young guys like that. You mentioned the changing of the guard with looking at the playoffs now and what teams are
uh,
left with Anaheim and
yep,
Buffalo and Montreal, things like that. These guys are the cornerstones of those teams
yeah,
becoming regular actors in the postseason again. So I just wanted to
yeah.
throw
You're
that in
not
there.
gonna,
And Dostal's been a big reason
yeah.
they stuck with him.
You're exactly right, and to have a chance to have a not a dynasty type of, but a really good run at things, you need that cornerstone goalie. You have to have that, and Dostal is the guy for Anaheim. Anaheim's a pretty young team. I like their decor. I like John Carlson, older guy on the blue line, and he lends a ton of experience. Obviously, a lot of success in National Hockey League for a long time. But I like those guys with those teams. They're going to be around a while because of their goalies, their young goaltending. So anyway, so
And
moving
just
on.
think about
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
guys they replaced too, like Jeremy Swayman, Andrei Vasilevsky, and
Yeah,
who's the last? Jake Ottinger, who are regular appearances in the postseason the last 5 to 10 years. You could be looking at
yeah,
Dobis, Dostal, Carter
yep,
Hart, whatever
yep.
combination of those guys you want. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Coach.
No, no, but the depth of elite goalies is getting a little bit deeper, in a league, and it's fun to watch. It really is. So, next guy, number 5, Vladar with the Flyers. Um, he's had a couple of shutouts, but he's looked kind of vulnerable in this round a little bit, but he's also facing a pretty good team. And I think
He
there's
would have been
simply,
higher had this been just the first round, right?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, he would have been near
The
the
3-0
probably
kind of hurts.
3. Yeah, yeah, it does. But he's played well, but not all that great. He's come down to earth a little bit, and that again, it goes back to the consistency part of the game. You can do it. You can't be a flash in the pan. You just gotta, just hold your ground all the time. And he hasn't done that yet in this round. Again, they're a little overmatched. Not a little. They're a lot overmatched in this round. So I kind of get it, but he has the opportunity to go in there and shut the door and win games for him in this series, and he hasn't done it yet. So that's why I have him as number 5. Number 4, it probably should be a little higher, but it's crowded at the top is Carter Hart. I
I
think he's
have him
played
here
really
as
well.
well.
Yep, I think he's played great, and hasn't had to stand on his head too much because they are who they are. They're a really good team, but I think the more success that he has as the playoffs go along, the more dangerous he can be for Vegas. Just gaining confidence, and the deeper he goes, watch out. I'm a big Carter Hart fan. I think he's a very, very good goaltender, just stable more than anything else, and he can come up with big saves. So I like where they're
They're
going with him. Yep,
they're
yep,
they're also a team, if you watch them play against the Mammoth first round, where don't let them get a lead because a guy like Carter Hart, that's all he needs. Like, it doesn't matter if it's 5-4 or 1-0. He
yep,
wants to smother you. He likes playing with a close game, and he proved that in that first series in my mind.
yeah. I would agree.
Doesn't make him
I would agree.
uncomfortable.
No. Number 3, moving towards the top, Jakub Dobis with Montreal. He got beat the other night, came back, stellar game. And early in last night's game, he had some huge saves. I mean, big time saves, wide open in the slot, and the guy's eyes were right on it, locked in, picked him off. But he's been one of the better stories, and I think for some reason the media has not jumped all over it yet. I don't know why, which in a way is great for the kid. But you
And
watch
especially in that
his
city, the fact that it's not the main focus of these playoffs, thank God for him because Montreal will make
yeah.
that the mecca.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, they have a lot of good stories on that team. A lot of great stories. A lot of good forwards, good D men, and they've got a great young goalie. So I have him as number 3. I think he's played fantastic. I think every time he's been beaten, I think he's come back with a win, and that's a great trait to have. How you bounce back, and in the
Yeah,
game
you're
2
right, by the
loss.
way, coach.
Yeah, yeah,
They've
and
won
his
every game
loss,
after they've lost, so
that's a big deal, and to be known for that,
yeah.
not only by the outside world, but to believe in that yourself, that's everything. So I think he's one of the great future goalies in the NHL, Jakub Dobas, and that will be because of his mindset. So, I think
And,
he just can see it.
shout out him, by the way, again, we mentioned it earlier off the top of the show, winning that game 7 in Tampa with only 9 shots from your own team. I mean, you're getting almost no help. He was the
Yeah.
entire team that night. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't imagine the pats on the ass and the hat in the back he got
Oh,
after that
yeah.
game,
Yeah,
especially from
yeah.
his coach, Martin St. Louis, who's a former Lightning. He did not wanna
Yeah.
lose that game, I'll tell you that.
Boy, yeah, that was an amazing game, and I mean, Dobie could easily be on top of this list, but there
Yeah,
are other
he's 2
the
for
other
me.
2 guys.
I swapped him
Yeah,
and the next guy I think you have.
yeah, and Wedgwood is number 2. Again, I don't think he's been, pressed like the other guys have, but he's got the job done, and they're on the verge of just rolling into the conference finals. And I like his game. He's cleaned up his game over the last couple of years, and he used to be kind of a loose cannon out there and just got caught outside the pipes a lot. But he's really tightened everything up, and I think he's done a great job. And when he's on, and which he typically is on, they're going to be really, really hard to beat. They're going to be hard to beat no matter who's in goal for them. But when he's on his game, he's really good. So I have him as number 2. And number 1, which would
Wait,
probably
real quick,
surprise.
coach. Let me
Yeah, go ahead.
allow me to challenge your ranking system there because I said I have Dobis and Wedgwood swapped there. I just have
Yeah.
one quick question for you. Do you think that Montreal is here with Scott Wedgwood, and do you think that Colorado is where they are with Jakub Dobis? Do you understand? They
Yes.
swap goalies.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
You think
I do.
Wedgwood is good enough to win that game 7 too?
Yep, yep,
Okay,
yep.
then
Yep,
I
I
abstain.
do. Oh,
I
yeah.
that was my go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. That's a great question, actually. But yeah, I mean, Wedgwood has played well enough, and he has the game to do it. So if you swapped him and put him in that game 7, I think he would have been fine.
He's
But
given up 8 goals in 2 games, but luckily his team scored 14. So that's kind of where I get a little
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. And hey, not to say that I'm right, right? But that's just
well,
how
coach,
I
you were fucking 7 for 8, so I really shouldn't be questioning you whatsoever on this show, but I had to
I'm always
there. I
going to be
had to ask.
questioned. Always have to be questioned. But number
Okay.
1 is Freddie Anderson,
I
and
gave him
he
that
has.
too.
Yeah, he had just come up with big save after big save, and yeah, he's just done it the right way. I just pray he stays healthy because he's fun to watch, and he's an older guy, and he's been around. He's been around the league a long time. So the only question is his health, and if he can stay healthy for the next month or so, month and a half, he's going to be fine. But he's come up with big saves, and they haven't been they've been outshot in some of these games, despite their great defensive team play. their team defense. But Freddie's put on a bit of a show, and I believe they might be the first team if they can sweep. They might be the first team to do back-to-back sweeps to open the playoffs. I think I read that somewhere, and obviously, if you read it on the internet, it's true, right? But
Yeah, absolutely.
uh,
I'm not even gonna
but
fact
I mean
check it,
that
but
that that's a if that's true, that's quite an accomplishment, and he's played really well. So, but really, the top three, Dobas Wedgwood and Freddie Anderson, you could swap them out. And next week we may, I think we should do this every week. Next week
yeah,
they could be Dobie could be number one. Who knows, right? But
I
that's
love
how
I love that.
I yeah, yeah, it'll be fun. But goaltending has been um, the like you said before, not only teams changing of the guard, but goalies changing of the guard. Where how many elite goalies in the league have been knocked out of the playoffs or didn't make the playoffs, right? And now you got the Dostols, the Dobies, and guys like that. They were pretty young in the league and making a name for themselves. It's been a blast.
I mean, who would have thought, Jake Ottinger, Jeremy
Yeah.
Swayman, and Andrei Vasilevsky, both Vezina finalists, would be out already.
Knocked out
So,
in the first round, right?
crazy.
Yeah. So that's the game. And how old is Vaz? Vaz is the same age as Helly, so he's 32 roughly, give
Yeah.
or take. Ottinger's young. Ottinger's got what, 7 years left in his
I think
contract?
Ottinger's 29 or 30 years old.
Yeah, yeah. And Helly's got 5 years left on his, and we'll see. So there was one other subject
Ottinger's
we were gonna.
27, actually.
Is he 27? Yeah, he's
Yeah, I'm
still
old as shit.
that's still pretty young. That's not bad. He's right.
Yeah, that's young.
Ottinger is right in his wheelhouse, like right in that sweet spot where mentally you get it all together, physically you get it all together. Your bones aren't creaking. When you get to 37 or 38, if you make it that far, your bones or your body's going to get worn down. But he's at 27, he's right in his prime.
And if anyone of those teams had a complaint about the first series, I mean, Dallas drew a shit sandwich getting Minnesota. So that's tough.
Yeah,
And
hundred
I,
percent,
I have not
hundred
lost
percent.
faith in Jake Ottinger. So,
Nope, nope, nope. He's legit, and a lot of it has to do with the team in front of you. And Dallas is not. They might be fading a little bit, so their window might have come and gone. The window of
yeah.
opportunity.
And
So now that
we
I
were going to
said that,
mention
they'll
it,
probably.
coach. You said about the offseason, you think a lot of big goalie chess pieces are moving.
I think there's an unbelievable chance that you see two of the best in the last decade could be swapping them out, and Hellebuck being one of them. You don't know, and Vasilevsky being the other. That's just a gut feeling. But you watch the exit interviews of both guys, and it seems to me that's the case in Winnipeg. But I was really surprised to see Vasilevsky kind of, I don't know, I want to say threw John Cooper under the bus, but when they talked about Cooper's response to not winning, and he called it, I think Cooper called it, the hockey gods didn't smile on us, and Vasilevsky just rolled his eyes like, you don't do that. If you're with a buddy at a bar and you're having a conversation, yeah, but when you're on national TV doing an interview and there's millions watching you, you don't roll your eyes. So either he wants out or he wants Cooper out, one or the other. That's how I see it. And otherwise, you keep your mouth shut. If there's any
I
doubt,
always take those things with goalies with a grain of salt, especially
yeah,
Russian or guys that come from other areas.
but he's never
He's a
done that
crazy
before.
guy.
He's
He's a
he's never done
crazy
that.
guy.
Who, Vaz?
Yeah. I've never
Yeah,
seen I've seen some things I'd never seen before. I don't know if you saw Pasta screaming at the Bruins. That clip
yeah,
came out this week. I saw Swayman screaming on the bench this year. I've seen some pretty wild stuff that I've never seen
yeah.
before. So,
But I've never seen Vasilevsky has been one of the quieter goalies, along with Hellebuck. He doesn't say very controversial things. He's not in the news. He keeps his mouth shut. I was shocked when he
it's
had that
easier when the
response.
game can speak for itself though and you're winning back-to-back cups, I think, to keep your mouth
Yep.
shut.
Yep. Good point.
So, we'll
Yeah,
see.
very good point. But it'll be interesting to see how it all wraps up this summer. I'm just going to predict there's going to be major changes, and with some of the elite goaltending. I think Ottinger is not going anywhere. They'd be insane to move him. But I will say this. Um, when you're like Hellebuck's been in the league over a decade. I think just finished year number 11. Vasilevsky's had great success. We talk about shelf life for coaches. Sometimes same thing for goaltenders or players in general. It might be time for a change. And if you're in Winnipeg and um, that's not an easy place to play. It's a great place to play in terms of fan support. Um, I've been to many games up there, and it's electric when it's full. And they've had good results in the last few years. And they won the President's Trophy a year ago, and they'll get behind it. But it's a tough place to live, right? Um, Hellebuck loves the outdoors, so it's easier for him. But at some point, maybe you need a breath of fresh air. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. Nothing may happen. He may finish his career there. You don't know. Vasilevsky the same. He's had a lot of success in Tampa. Who's to say it's not getting a little stale? And maybe it's time for a change when he's still got some runway left in his game, in his career. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Although I would have a hard time maybe leaving Tampa Bay. It's pretty nice
I
place to
was
live,
gonna
I think.
say I'm okay with it. Get out of my division, Vasilevsky, and I mean Hellebuck. I love you, man, but go to the Metro. Stay
Yeah.
away from my
Yeah.
division, please.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be teams looking for goaltending, and I always thought Vegas would be one of them. But if Carter Hart emerges in the playoffs, unless they want a great 1-2 punch like Ullmark and Swayman a few years back, you never know. But you look at salaries. I don't know what Vasilevsky's salary is at. I think he's up there. Helly is actually cheap at 8.5 these
Yeah. Oh,
days.
yeah. Especially with the cap going up.
Yeah, Cap's going up, what, 8 million this year. That's a lot. And Helly's
Bassie's
actually
got a
cheap.
9. Bassie's got a 9.5 AAV right now
Yeah. Yeah. And Helly's at 8.5, I think. So
till
they're
next year.
they're comparable, but there are other guys in the league making more than they are. So
Yeah.
with a cap going up and that fact that other guys make more, I would consider them pretty easily absorbed into the salary cut picture. Depending on, every team's different how much space they have, but, um, you know, 9, 8.5, 9, not that crazy. There are plenty of other players, goalies included, that are making more. What's Shesterkin at? A lot,
That and
right?
that's with the cap as it is now. Like those will be journeyman goaltender contracts in a couple of years. Like no question
Yes.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the day when the average salary was $1 million, and that was crazy. And now it's like,
Yeah.
let's see, entry level, right? So, so things change,
It's league
but
minimum for the NFL.
yeah, yeah, but it'll be fun to watch it. But I'm really excited for the remainder of the playoffs, and we'll see how my list turn out a week from now.
All right, really quick, Coach, before we get out of here. Do you think Carolina's finishing off Philly tonight?
Yes,
Okay.
yep,
Colorado up 2-0. Do you think they win that series?
sweep.
Okay, sweep. I say gentlemen sweep. I think Minnesota has some home pride. They win one more game at home than my pathetic Boston Bruins.
Okay,
Buffalo, Montreal tied 1-1. You said you think Montreal, right? How many games?
7.
I'm saying 6. I think they take it in the Bell Center. And
Yeah,
then last but not least, Vegas and Anaheim. Does Anaheim have any chance to come back in this?
that will go 6 games, Vegas.
That's what I had as well. 6 games in
Yeah,
Anaheim.
yeah. It's my
Alrighty.
official. These are my official predictions. So,
I will keep these for next week, and we will see how right
okay,
and you are and wrong I am once again. Until next time, guys, thank you very much for listening, and we will catch you near the end of round 2.
awesome. All right, peace.